Okay, now let's continue. So we will continue with this topic. Yeah. In the past, most people lived in small villages where everyone knew everyone else. Nowadays, most people live in large cities where they only know a few people in their area. What do you think were the advantages and disadvantages of living in a small community? So that's the man's question, okay? Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge and experience. So last time we did the introduction already, right? I already explained that to you. So we need to do two things in the introduction. First of all, you need to paraphrase the main topic sentence, okay? And then you have to tell or to write about your purpose of doing this or writing this essay, okay? You have to say that in this essay, I'm going to do this or do that. Because here the main question is about what do you think were the advantages and disadvantages of living in a small community? So that's why in the introduction you should mention something like, in this essay I'm going to explore, or I'm going to explain, or I'm going to give my own opinions about the advantages and disadvantages of blah blah, okay? Yeah, of living in a small community. Of course you have to change all of the words here. You cannot just use exactly the same words here, okay? Don't get me wrong, you can still use some words here, but in different ways, okay? Don't write exactly the same sentences here, otherwise you get no points for this, yeah? Instead you have to change, or you paraphrase, you use your own words to explain these things, then it should be alright, yeah? Okay, so last time we already finished the introduction. Now let's move on to the body, right? In the body, remember, you need to write at least 2 paragraphs in this case, because they're asking for the advantages and disadvantages, right? So in the first paragraph, normally you need to write about the advantages or disadvantages. It's up to you. You can choose. It's up to you. Yeah? So in this case, let's start with the advantages first. Okay? Yeah? So for paragraph 1, you need to write about the advantages. And how many points, how many advantages should you mention? Yeah, only 1 to 3, okay? At least 1, maximum 3. You can go somewhere like 1 or 2 advantages, okay? Or maximum 3 advantages. Don't go more than that. Got it? All right. Let's say point number 1. Okay, and also one more thing. Look at the first sentence here. I really like these things, guys, and I have to stress that again. So the first sentence of each paragraph is really important. What should you write? The first sentence of each paragraph. What should you write? For example, like you already have the sample answer here, right? So you can look at paragraph 2. So that is the body. And this is the first paragraph, right? Paragraph 1 of the body. So can you read the first sentence here?
There were a number of benefits to living in a small village.
Yes, there were a number of benefits to living in a small village. So that is the first sentence, and also that is a very important sentence. Why is that? Tell me. What should you do here? What should you do with the first sentence? Tell me.
They talk about all the things when I want to talk about.
Yes, you have to mention about the purpose of this paragraph. Okay? You have to make it very clear from the beginning what you are about to write here. So the readers or the examiners, when they read this, just based on the first sentence, they know what you are about to write or what they are about to read in the first paragraph. Okay? So here, when you read the first sentence, there were a number of benefits to living in a small community, to living in a small village. Now, can you guess what you will read in this paragraph? You will see what? Based on the first sentence, what will you be able to see, or what do you expect to see or to read here? Just based on the first sentence.
You will feel like you will read about some numbers of advantage to living in a small village.
Yes, that's right. So based on this, you will see a number of benefits. That means a number of advantages, right? So you are expected, or you expect to see or to read something related to the benefits or the advantages of living in a small village in this paragraph, right? Okay, so that's why next you see they write firstly, secondly, also, something like that. So they just list them, they just mention about those advantages. Of course, after that they have to give reasons for their answer and also include some relevant examples, right? Yeah, so it's very clear. You have to mention, okay, in this paragraph I'm going to write about what? A number of benefits to living in a small village. And then you really have to explain that. You have to write, okay, firstly, the first benefit is this, and secondly, the benefit is that, okay? And then also the third benefit or something like that, okay? So similarly, in the third paragraph, that means also in the body, paragraph 2 of the body. Hồng, can you please read the first sentence?
However, there were a number of disadvantages.
Yes, however, there were a number of disadvantages. Again, by reading the first sentence here, what can you expect to see or to read in this paragraph? Hồng.
We will see the disadvantages.
Yes, you will see something related to the disadvantages of living in a small community here in this paragraph, right? And that's for sure. You will see that. And when you do writing, you have to do the same thing. You have to make it very clear from the beginning about what you are about to write. Okay, what you want to write in that topic, in that paragraph. Got it? Yeah. So that is for the body, and for the conclusion, we will come to that later. Okay. Now let's read the body together. Yeah. Bảo, could you please read the first paragraph of the body?
There were a number of benefits to living in a small village.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, people knew each other, and in the village, my grandparents came from. Everyone spoke to everyone else, so no one ever felt lonely.
Okay, stop right there. Firstly, people knew each other, and in the village my grandparents came from, everyone spoke to everyone else, so no one ever felt lonely. Now, can you please explain what is the first benefit?
People knew each other.
Yeah, the first benefit is people knew each other. All right, Kiệt, now tell me, did he give any kind of explanations or any relevant examples for this point? No? Yutang, what do you think?
In the village, my grandparents go.
I just asked you yes or no.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Where? What?
In the village, my parents came from. Everyone spoke to everyone else, so no one ever feel lonely.
Yes. So the answer is yes. Okay, the writer only mentioned about the reasons and also give some examples. What is the example here? The example of people knew each other. Here's the example. In the village my grandparents came from. Why he wrote my grandparents? Because the question asked you to give the examples based on your knowledge and experience, right? So that means your own knowledge and experience. So that's why he mentioned my grandparents, because that is based on his experience and knowledge. Do you understand? So he give one example. In the village my grandparents came from, so that he's giving an example of that to prove the point that people knew each other. Okay? In the village my grandparents came from, everyone spoke to everyone else. That means that everyone knew each other. Do you understand? So that is an example. And also here he explained that, so no one ever felt lonely. So that's kind of give reasons for your answer, why you choose or why you think that is the benefit. Okay, the benefit is people knew each other and no one ever felt lonely. Do you understand? So for every single point you have to do like that. Maybe at some point, some particular point, you only need to give some examples, or some other points you can give examples and also explanation or give reasons, or some other things you just give some explanation. That should be okay. But at least you have to do something. Okay, you have to mention maybe the reason or explanation or examples. You need that for each particular point. Okay, so that's why last time I told you you only need to mention like 1 to 3 points maximum. Don't mention more than that. Yeah, because you always have to explain, and that costs a lot of time, and that also brings you a lot of words here already. That should be more than enough, right? Remember how many words do you have to write in total? Yeah, 250 words. So you only need to mention 3 points, and that kind of 80 or 100 words already, right? Okay, now guys, so that is the first point. Now, okay, what is the second point? What is the second benefit here?
Everyone spoke to everyone else.
No, that's not the second benefit. That is still in the first benefit, right? You see, firstly, people knew each other, and in the village my grandparents came from, everyone spoke to everyone else, so no one ever felt lonely. So all of that is used for the first benefit, right? Now, what is the second benefit? Tell me.
Simply, there was always someone to look after the children and to teach them good behavior. So children grow up being polite and respectful.
Yes, that's right. Secondly, there was always someone to look after the children and to teach them good behavior. So children grew up being polite and respectful. So that is the second benefit, right? Did they give any? Did the writer give any kind of examples or explanation here? What is that?
Someone to look after children and to give them good behavior.
Yeah, someone to look after the children and to teach them good behavior. That is the benefit. And after, guys, what should I write here?
Now, teach good behavior.
What's the first thing?
Someone.
Someone to look after the children, right? Someone looks after the children. Okay, so that is the second benefit. Someone to look after the children and also what? And teach them. Okay, someone to look after the children and teach them how to behave. Okay, so that is the second benefit. And after this, after each point, you have to give reason and explain and give examples, right? So in this case, they say something like, so children grew up being polite and respectful. Okay, so that is the result of look after the children, okay, of looking after the children and teaching them how to behave. So that's the outcome of that. So it's okay. Yeah? But at least you, after mentioning one point, you have to say something about it. Okay? You have to explain, or you have to give reasons, or you have to give the result, things like that. You cannot just mention the points without doing anything. Okay? You cannot just say the first benefit is people know each other. The second benefit is we have someone to look after the children and teach them how to behave. And the third benefit is no, you don't do that. Okay? If you do that, the writing essay will be very boring. Okay? And you don't prove anything at all. Yeah. So that is the second benefit. Now, Yi-Teng, tell me the third benefit.
They could play safely in the street, and there was little
Graham.
It was symbolized that everyone was happy.
Yes. The third part, the third benefit. Also, you see they use the word also. So you see all of the linking words here. Firstly, secondly, also. Okay? If you use thirdly, it's okay, but kind of repeated, right? So they change. They don't use firstly, secondly, thirdly, fourthly. Okay, don't do that. So it's really boring. So firstly, secondly, and then also. Yeah. Also, they could play safely in the street, and there was little crime. So that means the third, like point number 3 here. If I mention point number 3. So what is that? Safe. Okay, safe. So that's the third benefit. They could play safely in the street, and there was little crime. They just add something else. Okay. So it was a simple life, but everyone was happy. So at least after mentioning about the third point, they also explain or they say something about that. Okay. But as I said, this one is not kind of course you cannot get a band 9 with this. Okay, it's just kind of a sample answer. It's good enough, but it's not there for you to get a band 9 with this. You understand? If you want to get a band 9, you have to do something more about it. But it's just an example. Got it? You have to explain more, you have to give reasons, you have to give the results, you have to give some examples. Okay, you have to use different types of structures. You cannot just keep it like this and hope that or expect you can get a band 9. No. Yeah? But of course you can easily get more than 6 with this. 6 to 7 with this. Yeah? Alright, so we have just finished, or we just discussed about all of the benefits. You see that? So let's move on to the next paragraph. Let's move on to the next paragraph here. What is it about? Stop again. What is it about?
It's about the number of disadvantages.
Yes, a number of disadvantages. So we expect to see or to read all of the disadvantages here, right? It's very clear. The structure is very clear. All right, Sab, now tell me about the first disadvantage here. Yeah, read that.
The nearest primary school was in the next village, and the nearest secondary school in the town some miles away.
This meant that
This meant that most children did not get a good education, and most people had to work in
agriculture. Okay. Yeah, there were a number of disadvantages. The nearest primary school was in the next village, and the nearest secondary school in a town some miles away. This meant that most children did not get a good education, and most people had to work in agriculture. You know, like in Vietnam, in some small villages, they don't have so many schools, right? Yeah, maybe only one very small one, and everyone had good or good students or kind of Yeah.
study
Yeah.
there for grade 1 to grade.
From grade 1 to grade 5, maybe in one school, all of the children in that village have to go or have to get to the same school, even if they're very good, excellent, or if they're just normal or below average or something, they all go to the same place. What?
Why here they said that they said where the school is.
Yeah, so they said that it's very far away. So the nearest primary school was in the next village. So that means that maybe in your village, it doesn't have any school. If you want to go to school, you have to go to another village. Yeah, the nearest one is in another village, not in your village. Maybe, sometime. Yeah? So, yeah, or the nearest secondary school in a town, some miles away. That means you have to travel quite far away.
They said where the school is, right?
Yeah.
Why they said that this means that some children did not get a good education.
Yes, some children did not get a good education because the school is very far away. Because luckily we are not living in the mountain. Okay? You know that in some mountains they don't have many schools, right? So if they want to study, they have to travel a very, very long way from their houses through some very dangerous paths to get to school, right? You can read or you can search that for yourself, and you will see that that's what happening in some villages, even right now. Okay? Yeah, you got it. Yeah. So of course, for those people, they don't have a good education because they are lucky enough just to get to a school, and they don't even mention about that is the best school or the good school or whatever. It's just a school, and you have to go there, and you're lucky enough to have one. Okay, so that's why so they say here this meant that most children did not get a good education. Yeah, because maybe the level of education there in that small school is very average. Okay, it's just average and not excellent. Yeah, maybe low as well. And also most people had to work in agriculture. You know agriculture?
Farming.
Farming. Yeah. Yeah. So that is the advantages. Okay, so you can mention here disadvantages like did not get a good education. Yeah. Number 1, did not get a good education. Okay, so we are talking about disadvantages, right? Okay, and also okay, they did not get a good education, and also most people had to work in agriculture. Work in agriculture. Now, they didn't make it clear here. That's what I don't like about it. Do you know why? When they say they did not get a good education and work in agriculture, do you think that's enough? What do they mean here? Do you understand?
Yes.
Means that agriculture.
Yeah, agriculture means farming, like become farmers, work on the fields. But they didn't explain anything more, right? They didn't explain anything further related to working in agriculture. Do you understand what that means? You understand what? It's still unclear, right?
That means that they don't have good education because they are poor.
Yeah. Actually, when they mention work in agriculture, they mean low income. Low income. You understand low income?
Yes.
they cannot earn much money. I don't say that for everyone, but for many people that is the case. And also that is what the writer trying to explain here. So when they mention about most people had to work in agriculture, that means they have no other options. The only thing or the only kind of job they can do that is agriculture, that is working on the fields as farmers. And normally it's kind of they're related to kind of low income. Of course, some people they get rich. Thanks for that, but not everyone, right? So that means low income or do not earning much money. And when parents cannot earn much money, what does that mean? Yeah, children can hardly get to school, or they can only get to some kind of average school or below average school. So that's why it is related to do not have a good education, right? So they kind of connected low income and kind of low level or low quality of education as well. Okay? But so that's what I don't really like about this essay, because they didn't explain any further. They just mentioned that's not good enough. It's okay, but not good enough. Okay? They have to explain more. They have to say more about that point. Okay? So that's what is there for you to improve. You understand that, right? So you have to improve. Education
at the first, and then go after.
Work in agriculture below that doesn't matter. So if you don't like this style, you can change. Okay, you can improve it. As I said, I don't say that this is the best essay ever. Okay, it's just average. So you can always improve it. Got it? So that is the first one, and also what's the second one? Oh, here they mentioned the next one. If young people were ambitious, they had to move away from the village, and few people had the chance to do this. Do you understand this? So that is the second or the third disadvantage here. If young people were ambitious, they had to move away from the village, because in the village they don't have much opportunity, right? Because most people just work in agriculture. You see? So here they try to explain a little bit more. If young people were ambitious, they had to move away from the village, and few people had the chance to do this. What does that mean?
That means only a few people can go to the town.
Yeah, that means only, yeah.
Do something more that has income.
Yeah, I mean only few people can do that. Yeah, few people can get away from the small villages and go to some maybe bigger cities and to have better chance. Okay, and maybe get a higher income. That is not for everyone. Okay. Yeah. So here like did not get a good education with agriculture. Less opportunity. Okay, they don't have no opportunity. Remember last time we discussed about the advantages and disadvantages. We talked about that, right? They don't have so many opportunities to get a high income. Okay, next one. Also, Hồng read that. Also, what?
Also, when someone was ill, it was a long way to the nearest hospital.
Yes, also when someone was ill, it was a long way to the nearest hospital. Okay? To the nearest hospital. So what is the disadvantage here?
Long way to the
Yeah, that means that health. They are talking about health care. Okay, it's not very good, right? If someone was ill, it was a long way to the nearest hospital. Okay. So the hospital normally is very far away, or they don't have it. Again, they just the same as education. They cannot access to good education, a good hospital. Got it? So that is also another disadvantage. All right, guys.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have just finished the body. Now let's move on to the conclusion. Yeah, conclusion, you can learn this all in all or in conclusion. Look at that. You say all in all. You start the conclusion with that, or you can say in conclusion or consequently or something. You just learn a couple of words or a couple of phrases to use. Okay? So all in all, I mean in conclusion, I think what? Bảo, read that. Read the whole conclusion.
All in all, I think people from my grandparents' generation were happier. However, in the modern world, with all the possibilities which exist today, I think it is a pity to be limited to a small village. Nowadays, there are more advantages to living in a large city.
Yeah, okay. Alright. So all in all, I think people from my grandparents' generations were happier. However, in the modern world, with all the possibilities which exist today, I think it is a pity to be limited to a small village. Nowadays, there are more advantages to living in a large city. Okay? Now again, tell me, what should we write in the conclusion, guys? Yeah, kind of a summary of what you have written in the previous post, like in the introduction and also in the body, right? So you you mention them again, or you make a conclusion based on those points. Yeah. So here, after reading all of the things, now this person or this writer comes to a conclusion that I think people from my grandparents' generation were happier. I mean, the people in the past, they were happier. That's what he thinks, right? However, in modern world, with all the possibilities which exist today, I think it is a pity to be limited. So that means that he still thinks that people should, or young people should move to some large cities for more opportunities, right? So that's kind of a conclusion. Yeah? It's also okay. We can make it better. So if in the conclusion you mention about the purpose, or you gave your idea, like you think that there are more advantages compared with disadvantages. So in the conclusion you can mention that again. You said again, okay? You think that there are more advantages or there are more disadvantages, and then you kind of repeat them in some different ways. Yeah? Okay, guys? All right. Okay, so I have explained. I've just explained everything to you. So your task is to write this. Okay, you need to practice and you should write it yourself after a break. Okay.